Alrighty, welcome listeners to another episode of the Banquet Hall podcast. For new listeners, make sure y'all follow the podcast on social media and subscribe to our RSS feed at Banquet Hall Pod. I am joined by a couple of individuals who are involved with a community organization called Firme Voices. Definitely looking forward to getting the story of Firme Voices out there, especially in anticipation of an event coming up this Saturday on February 10th, collaboration with Firme Voices and Black Xpression. But I'm joined by Steve and Bertine. How are y'all doing today?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Of course, and I'm just very blessed to be able to be in community with y'all and to share y'all's story with our listeners. So I wanted to go ahead and get started right from the top. If one of y'all don't mind describing what is Firme Voices and how did it start?
Well, Firme Voices is a poetry collective here based in San Diego. How did it start? Basically, we were performing at different locations that we noticed that we didn't fit. Simple as that. We were actually, Steve and I, we met on one of those poetry open mics, and we connect, and we were like trying to do something different. We started this back in May of 2023 along with other poets. We started this movement about creating our own place where we can share our stories with our own way of communicate with our own language. You know, many of us, we have a second language. Some of us, it's our first language, which is Spanish. We have our traditions and references that many other people don't get. So we really needed these spaces. And Steve can tell you that we didn't have any spaces like this from 20 years ago. Steve?
Yeah, basically it started because, we weren't being represented, our stories, our culture. And then when we go read other places, they kind of be lost hearing our backgrounds and whatnot, So we needed something of our own, And fortunately enough, thanks to Bertine and the Chicano Park Steering Committee, they gave us a home at the Chicano Park kiosk to hold events, as well as the Centro Cultura de la Raza in Balboa Park. They gave us a home too. We have a very good foundation with them, and we're very blessed to do so. The last great Chicano collective, Mexican collective, was 20 years ago. It was a Voz Alta project. The first variation was very much kind of like what we're doing right now, and I was a part of that as a teenager. So to be a part of the last great one and then the great one here, 20 years later, I'm kind of outdating myself, right? But I know it's a beautiful thing to be a part of the past and the present here. So we're very, we're still in our infancy. We've been around 8 months, but we're very proud to see how much it's grown in those 8 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, you don't look a day over 21, so it's surprising to hear that you were around for those movements 20 years ago.
Well, cheers,
Right.
Cheers to that. And thank you for the compliment too. Appreciate it.
Cheers to that as well. And I think that is very important to mention with regards to finding a place where you feel represented and where you have a sense of belonging, because I think when you look at San Diego in the media, a lot of people only talk about like palm trees. They show La Jolla, they show the beaches, but they don't really show the rich communities that are present in San Diego. And I think that that's really reflective of the space that artists serve, because similar to Black Xpression, we created a space where we felt comfortable, where folks can come and be in community and feel like they can share and express themselves. And one thing that you mentioned, I think Bertine mentioned it, language and upbringing is so important in the art that you're creating as well. Why do you think it's important for there to be more spaces where folks who have a different language background have a way to express themselves in a comfortable manner? Why is that so important to you?
I think that it's because it's kind of like any type of communication. You need to have a receptor, right? And when you feel confident to express yourself, you're also expecting someone to understand it, to know what you're feeling. sometimes we were throwing words in Spanish or Spanglish, how we call it, that we were feeling it. We were kind of like, oh, this is what I feel, this is what I represent, and this is the only way I can communicate the right way. I can't just speak Spanish, I can't just speak English. I need to do a mixture because that's who I am. And I need someone that identifies like me to get it. And it's kind of like comedy. You're looking for a punchline to land with the right delivery. And if someone doesn't get it back, you feel it. Even if you don't get a like snapping fingers or claps or a you feel the energy within the audience that they're getting what you're saying. And that's what was happening to us. We weren't getting it. But man, the experience right now with our open mics, it's way different. It's a very, very nice experience. Yes.
To piggyback what Bertine said, we had a reader from Mexico City read with us in November at the Central in Balboa Park. And she thanked us so much. She said, I watch you guys from Mexico City, and whenever I got the chance to come to San Diego, I wanted to read with you guys. So it's just a sense of identity. Everybody has a story, no matter what language. And it's not fair that, if they went to this place or this place, their story would get lost in translation, so to speak, right? So the fact that, we could give them a home and they could share their stories with us, it's a beautiful thing as well.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I forgot to mention. Our space, it's the only open mic in San Diego where people can come and read in Spanish because most of all understand it. I know that many of our, some of our Chicano community don't really speak Spanish fluently, but we all get it 100%. So it's like we are the only space where they can come and read in Spanish, and we know what they're talking about because our parents speak Spanish, because their grandpa, their grandma. So is I think that's a very important thing that we need to continue to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And even as someone who does not speak Spanish, I think the open mics that I go to when I do hear a poet or an artist share something and they're using Spanglish or they have some Spanish in their poetry, even though I don't understand all the words that are being said, I think there's still a way to connect with somebody by just hearing the way they're speaking and the tone of their voice and the cadence of their words. And then I think that's where it's really important to have conversations with people afterward and learn like, hey, can you tell me more about this piece or what this piece means to you? And it surprises me that San Diego doesn't have more spaces like that where there are open mics where poets are comfortable speaking in their native tongue and being able to just express themselves in a way that is connecting with their audience and using the exact words they use without having to translate it for English speakers.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, now that you mentioned that, we had a poet from Puerto Rico that he came to one of our readings, and some of the people he was using we can't say a little bit more complex Spanish that we're used to, but the way he was reading it, it was amazing. You can feel it. So I totally agree with you. Yeah.
And through creating Firme Voices, what have you all learned about the art community in San Diego? Is there anything that has stood out to you about the poets and the artists that have been coming to the open mics?
Steve?
What I learned is that there was just the hunger for this, for what we do. It had been so long, and generally when you take something away from somebody or people for so long, there's a desire for when it comes back to want to share and have their stories told. So I learned that there was a real hunger for something like this to come back. We've grown quickly, and I think because of that too. Another thing that just amazes me is the first time readers that come to our open mics. It's like, man, they've been reading for like 5, 10, 15 years. I'm always blown away by the amount of talent that we get. First time readers, not even nervous or anything. The stories we hear, and of course we love to see them come back again. But just the amount of talent in this region, untapped talent, as I call it, diamonds in the rough. A lot of diamonds in the rough that are looking for a home. So I'm glad that we could kind of provide that space, for a lot of different individuals from the community. We just had an event this past Saturday, and we had, Mexican, African American, Filipino, Samoan. We had all people represented, and that's a beautiful thing to hear stories from all different backgrounds and cultures, and that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and following on what he said, we found before when we started this movement, we found that there was a lot of voices out there that needed this space, a lot of poets waiting for this. And when I had the chance to go to and talk to the Chicano Park Steering Committee and pitch the idea about doing an open mic at the kiosk, this amazing stage for Chicanos, they basically told me, we were waiting for you guys for long. We were waiting for this because poetry is part of our history in San Diego, in California, and in most of our Hispanic communities. And especially because of the movements that were back in the day, the 60s and 70s, poetry was part of that struggle. And Chicanismo is part of our history, and poetry belongs to that. So it's kind of like it was needed, definitely. So that's why I think we're having a lot of people following us. People are attending to our open mics because of that, because it was something that people needed.
When we met with I don't want to butcher his name, the Covey from Black Xpression. I don't want to butcher the name. Yeah, Covey. He came to read with us in December, and after the show, he told us, he said, "Man, we've been waiting for a group like you guys for 7 years, and that's kind of like the general idea we get." And I totally understood what he was saying. The type of political poetry we do, satire, social comment, social political commentary. That's important, man. We're going through a lot of things, not just in the city, state, and the world. And people want to express their frustrations and feelings towards that. So I'm glad we could give all types of poetry, social commentary, satire. All readers a home like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely echo what Kovu said, because I think once Black Xpression was a space that was created and we saw that there was a need for this space for a lot of Black people in San Diego, I can only imagine what that experience is like for folks who maybe they come to Black Xpression and they appreciate the community feel for it, but like we've mentioned, Black Xpression doesn't have Spanish speakers hosting it. And so to be able to have another space that cares about people and cares about community, because one of the things I've read when I was doing research for this episode, you talk about where poetry, culture, and community unite. And that's so key for our Black and Brown communities, to be able to have a space where you don't have to explain why you say things a certain way. You don't have to explain what this part of a poem means. And I really appreciate what Bertine mentioned about poetry being a part of this legacy and this history, because we're recording this during Black History Month, of course, and growing up, we hear about these Black poets and these famous Black poems that have been written, and people memorize them, people perform them. And I think it's so important for even folks that don't identify with the Latinx culture to be able to come to a space and learn through poets and learn through artists. So just really happy that you all are able to curate the space for community, and really excited to see it grow, because in only 8 months' time, the platform that you all have is only going to get bigger from here, and you already have such a strong following. And I'm hoping that through this podcast, we can introduce even more people to what you're doing, so we can share and grow throughout the communities. Because I mentioned before we started recording, but I went to school at UC San Diego, and there's plenty of Black and Brown students on that campus that might be looking for a home similar to this, and want to just make sure we're able to amplify this place and community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To piggyback off what you just said, the two most followed groups, if you want to talk about social media, are Black and Brown poetry. And that's, cheers to that too, brother. I mean, it says a lot too, that our stories are so intertwined. When we look at our communities, the things going on, things we talk about, police brutality, what just happened with the storm drains, flooding in Black and Brown communities. We all need an outlet, and we all go through that together. So I think there's overall thirst and hunger to tell those stories, man, that being so connected together.
For sure. Yes, and also I want to take, this opportunity because all that you said, Kyler, I have to thank uh, Steve because, we keep growing thanks to him. I was about to quit. He knows that. I was about to quit and, just forget about this. Sometimes we have struggles even within our own community. We get sometimes hard times that we don't get support, and we're kind of like just tired of looking for spaces or looking for support, or just getting a lot of hate from everywhere. So there was a point that I was like, forget about it, let's let's leave this to someone else who wants to do it. And then Steve and I had a conversation. um, we decided that he was gonna uh, be involved a lot, and he's the front man right now of Firme Voices, and he's doing. You should see his video. He went viral right now, with a piece about canceling art, which is something that we also kind of like have an experience of trying to cancel us, but we're here and we're gonna keep growing.
Yeah, what Bertine said, yeah, it was true. We did have a talk about that, and and I felt that with my past and my past dealings, with the Voz Alta, back when I read with them, and then I was a writer for the Prince of San Diego, so I have a little bit of know-how, background, community, and whatnot. So I basically told him, yeah, man, I said, give me the ball. I'll be LaDainian Tomlinson, circa 2006 and seven, and we'll run with it, and we're gonna grow it, man. We're gonna grow this thing, and we kind of had to do a little shift and go more politically that way, because we were born and bred in Barrio Logan, and that community, that neighborhood, is known for its activism. Since the residents got together to fight for Chicano Park, so we really needed to embody the place that we were born and bred in. And so once we started, once that switch started, you know, uh, I think that kind of piqued the interest of a lot more people, and we've been running, with it ever since. So, but Bertin is, he brought me in, Bertin, so thank you to him as well.
Hey, if you're the LT of Firme Voices, I think y'all are in a good position because LT is what got me into football.
Yeah, of course, 2007 Chargers, 2008 Chargers, great time in football.
Great time for the city for sure. Steve, do you mind expanding a little bit to talk a little bit about the importance of spaces like Chicano Park and Barrio Logan, especially for listeners who might not be familiar with Barrio Logan and that part of San Diego? Because I know just being able to be in those spaces and be in that community is a very important part of Firme Voices.
It is a very important part. I spent the first 30 years of my life living there. So I seen it firsthand, pre-gentrification and post-gentrification, which I write about a lot. And I saw the change happen in 2004 when Petco Park came. That's when the gentrification started. The homes in the neighborhood, started to skyrocket. My neighbors started getting kicked out. The hipsters started coming in. But it's given people like me that grew up there our attributes, our hard work ethic. That's what we saw growing up. Giving us a sense of culture, sense of pride. It's in our DNA, the fabric of who we are as a people. My grandma lived 80 years in Logan Heights. My father lived over 60 years, and he's still living, but he's lived 60 years in Barrio Logan. And they never once thought about leaving because they love the sense of community, they love the sense of culture, and they have a pride for it. And if you grow up, in any hood or barrio, you always, have an affinity towards it. It's always, you always want to fight for it. It's who you are. And so, with me and my commentary, I talk about our issues. We have one of the worst toxic air pollution in the state of California. I talk about that. We talk about the police, harassing our youth and throwing them down at Chicano Park and driving through our park like men. So, when you grow up in that environment, I don't think you have a choice but to speak up for the things going on. And even though it's heavily gentrified, stuff still happens. You know that. I mean, stuff still happens. So.
Bertina, anything you would like to add about Chicano Park and that part of San Diego?
Well, yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna quote something that a poet told me about this space. When she performed there, she was like, "This is the best stage in the world. You have the kiosk with the best art gallery around the world. You guys are lucky. You guys are blessed with this." So just imagine, reading at a symbolic place that represents the struggle of the Chicano community is amazing. So I think I think it represents a lot, and it means a lot to us as Chicanos, and for our movement to be part of it, to being, you know, endorsed by the Chicano Park Steering Committee to be there. It's amazing. It's a blessing for us, and we're thankful for having that opportunity. And that's why we want to share that opportunity to whoever wants to be part of it. And it's not only for Chicanos, it's not only for Mexican Americans or Hispanic, Latinos, or however you want to call it. That's a kind of like a misconception that some people have. No, it's an open mic. Anyone is welcome. Anyone can have that experience. Any topic. I know, Steve just mentioned that we became a little bit more political. Even myself, I was very kind of like warm on that side. And then when Steve came in, we all started try to talk about issues, started to talk about that. And but that doesn't mean we don't accept any other type of style or writing or poetry. So everyone's welcome to come and enjoy this amazing opportunity to be part of history, actually.
Yeah, definitely echo that people are being a part of history when they come to art spaces like this and sharing their talents as well as sharing the event in itself. And you mentioned that Firme Voices is not something that is just for people of a certain identity. And that's something that I feel I always like explaining about Black Xpression as well, because I have friends who say, oh, I don't want to go because I don't want to intrude on a Black space. And it's like, yes, Black Xpression is emphasizing a lot of Black poets and Black artists, but anybody is welcome to come and have a good time as long as you're not weird. We don't like people coming and messing up the vibe of community, of course. But no, I'm just kidding. But I think that's a good transition to bring up the fact that Firme Voices and Black Xpression are collaborating to have an event this coming Saturday, February 10th at 6 p.m. Can you want to give a little details about this event and the importance of it, where the event's going to be located at?
Yeah, before Steve shared the details, I just want to share that we as Black and Browns, we share the same struggles many of the times: systematic racism, and a long list that we won't stop tonight. So, but we are, just like Steve said a while ago, Kovo was like, we were waiting for you guys for a long time. And definitely when he said that, when we found out what Black Xpression was, we were like, yeah, we need to do this. It was for sure that we needed to do this. So it happened. It happened, and we're so excited about this.
Yeah, as far as the details, it's Saturday, February 10th, Balboa Park, Centro Cultura de la Raza, which is right next to the World Beat Center, right next to it. Looks just like the same building. And it's going to be our third time performing there. We're very excited for this event. Anybody and everybody that we told about it had a big smile on their face. What such a great idea, and I think with Firme Voices and Express and Black Xpression, uh, our poetry, our commentaries are real, the real, raw, rough, and rugged, the 4 Rs, as I like to say it, and you're not going to hear a lot of rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. You're not going to hear a lot of stuff about that, because that's not the life that we grew up in. We grew up in very difficult situations. We struggled. So you're going to hear a lot about that. You're going to hear about history. The piece I read touches on the Mexican-American War and what happened there, and I'm gonna intertwine it with my personal story. So you're gonna hear about history, you're gonna hear about culture, but you're gonna hear real stories from real communities, underserved communities, that were once voiceless, us voiceless for 20 years until Firme Voices came about. So we're very excited. We hope everybody can make it. Hope for a great turnout and just a great night of poetry and poesia.
Awesome. And before we close out, I know that Firme Voices also has a podcast. You want to share a little bit about the podcast in case folks want to tune in and hear some of the artists that have performed at Firme Voices?
Yeah, for sure. So the idea of a podcast, it was because we were having people attending to our open mics that they were just like trying to see if they had the courage to go on the mic, and some of them they couldn't. They were so nervous, they were afraid of being in front of people, uh, stage fright. So we're like, okay, what we can do is we create a platform where they can just record from home. They can just do it by themselves. And we're going to give them another platform to share their stories, to share their poetry. And we first started the first episodes by me talking, hosting, because they were sending just one or two poems. And I was just like introducing them and time, they reading their poems. But then we decided to have them to share their episode by themselves. Just they introducing themselves, reading them poems, talking about what inspired them to write them, then read them, and then an outro at the end. That way, they can feel more comfortable talking. That it's just them, and even when the episode comes out, that they can share the episode with their family, with their friends, and they will just say, hey, listen to my poetry. It's just me talking. So that's what we've been doing. We've inviting poets from all over the world. It's not just here in San Diego, it's wherever. And like I said before, it's not just for Hispanics or Chicanos, it's whoever wants to share their poetry. And that's a platform that we wanted to create as another space for the voices to be heard. And yeah, everyone is welcome. Like, just send us an email or a direct message on Instagram, and then we'll let you know. If you just want to record, listen to the episodes and kind of see how the structure is, and record yourself, send it to us, and for sure we'll publish it. And we are available on all podcast platforms as well. So yeah, if you try to just record it also in a space without noise on the background. I kind of edit it a little bit so it can sound better. But yeah, that's an invitation for everyone that wants to share the words on our podcast.
Yeah,
Lovely.
we hope to hear Kyler soon on the Firme Voices.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's invited already, but I don't know. He kind of ignored me, man.
No, I wanted to make sure I got this episode recorded first, and I was able to get people to tune in, but it's definitely on my list to send you all an email. I'm just figuring out what poems I want to include. I'm actually in the process of working on another poetry book too, so it'll be perfect timing.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, definitely not ignoring you. Don't worry about that, Martin.
Okay.
I've really enjoyed our conversation thus far. Before we close out, I just wanted to ask one last question, and that's just how can people support Firme Voices, whether it's ways they can support monetarily with money or just ways they can support the mission that Firme Voices has. How can people support you all?
Well, yeah, definitely our events are free. Everyone's welcome to go. We don't charge anything, and we don't put any, uh, notice or comment about donations. I know, and there's a say that many of poets are poor, so we get it. Well, probably some of them they do get grant monies, but not us, or not yet. But supporting our social media, following us, liking us, sharing our stuff, just like the way we're doing it with our viral video from Steve.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Bertin says, yeah, we'll never charge for any one of our events. It's just something that we're adamant about. We'd rather go out of pocket. We have readers that can't muster up the bus fare to come join. So it's not fair for us to charge to read at an open mic. That's just us. We're thinking of having cool projects in the future, movie projects, like movie nights and whatnot. And we're still not going to try to charge for that. I just want to add, whenever you see Firme Voices, just know that, we're trying to do good for the community to uplift brown Chicano voices. I want to give props to Bertin and myself. We just been named artists in residence for a project called Raza Rise, which is funded by the Environmental Health Coalition. And we'll be doing workshops with high school students with their senior projects. And we'll be doing poems about the environment and how bad the environment is in Barrio Logan. And we're doing poems about different aspects of Barrio Logan with the senior students. So we're very excited. We're very proud to be a part of it. Thank you to Mario Terrero, the master muralist, a legendary muralist from Chicano Park, and his wife, Sarah, for inviting us to be part of this project.
Amazing. Just very appreciative of the work you two are doing for community. Firme Voices is young, but I can already see just how much potential it has as an organization, as a group, as a community to make so much tangible impact. As you all know, as curators of an open mic space, sometimes that open mic space, whether it's just 5 minutes, someone speaking on a mic, it's healing for a lot of people. It saves a lot of people. And so just want to say that out loud because I think we owe it to ourselves to validate and affirm these artistic spaces that we have in our communities and just continue to build and amplify and grow as community together. I highly encourage our listeners of the Banquet Hall to tune into Firme Voices podcast to hear some really dope artists. If you're in the San Diego area, check out the events. Can you give a shout out to where people can find Firme Voices on social media, what the tag is?
Yeah, we only have Instagram. It's at Firme_Voices. And right there, you can find everything, all the events. We have our main events pinned. So that's where you can find most of the info. We also have a website, which is firmevoices.org, which directs to our podcast page that we have hosted on Buzzsprout. And you can find some information there as well. That's where you can listen to the podcast. We are working on creating our website with all the info, with many other information that we're working on. But we're getting there. Yeah.
Awesome. And pretty soon you will be able to hear my poetry on the Firme Voices feed as well, making it a guarantee and a promise on record that I'm going to pick a few poems and make sure I get that episode out there. But thank you both for just your time this evening to be able to share a little bit about Firme Voices. Of course, I wanted to make sure we had this to publicize the event, but I think even beyond this upcoming event, it's just important that we continue to share these stories so that artists can be heard. And if there's an artist listening to this and they're looking for a space like this, now that they know Firme Voices exists. So encouraging you, if you were inspired to check Firme Voices out, to check out one of the events by following on Instagram at Firme_Voices or going to firmevoices.org. Steve, Bertin, is there anything else that you all want to mention before we close out the episode?
Steve?
I want to thank you for having us, and thank you for offering this positive space for everybody. In this world of cancel culture and negativity, you bring different cultures to tell their stories, and we really appreciate you having us on the Banquet Hall. It's an honor to be.
Yeah, Kyler, really appreciate this opportunity to talk about our movement, about what we're doing. And I hope you don't edit that part where you commit yourself to be on my podcast.
No, it's definitely going to stay there. You have my honorable word with that. And it's an honor just getting to hear you all speak about Firme Voices. I see a lot of alignment with my goal for this podcast as well. One of the main reasons I created this podcast was to just be able to give people a platform to tell their stories. You can go on the internet and see any rich celebrities hour-long interview where they talk about absolutely nothing. So I want to make sure that we have more spaces for our voices to matter and to have space, and for people to get to know the awesome work that we're doing, because people see open mic and they don't really understand just all what is entailed within creating an open mic space. And as someone who hosts Black Xpression from time to time, I definitely understand just how much hard work goes into what we do. So yeah, just can't thank you all enough. Listeners, thank y'all for tuning into this episode. If y'all are new to the Banquet Hall, make sure y'all follow the Banquet Hall at Banquet Hall Pod. Stick around and hear other stories on the feed. We have plenty of artists that you can hear their stories for. And we hope to see y'all at Firme Voices, Firme Expressions on Saturday, and at future poetry events and community. Routine Steve, thank you for y'all time, and I hope y'all have a great time listening to this episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Kyler. Before I forgot, I just want to do a shout out for our co-host, Jessica and Soledad, which are hosting also with Steve. They're part of the team, and the rest of Firme Voices that they know who they are, that they're supporting this movement as well.
Yeah, shout out to the collective. Jessica, Soledad, Montezuma, Chieftain, Natalia. Thank you all for helping make Firme Voices what it is and what it has been.
Amazing. Thank you all, and we'll catch y'all next episode.